G'day folks, welcome to another episode of Bandaged Cube Creations. Well, this is the Detour cube, and this was the only presentation from a Twisty Puzzles for a member, Buskop. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And this one has a slice. There it has a couple of clocks, one there, and then a couple of pairs, a pair there and a pair there. So 5 bandaged parts on this puzzle. The yellow face is completely free. Now, the first thing is how do we scramble it? And what I've found the key to scrambling it is going to be a key to solving it as well. And it's this little setup here is problematic. So what I'm going to do is actually put this bit up here initially. So to do that, I'm going to turn it like that, then flip it and turn it back. So it's just a front 2, up 2, front 2. And then I can sort of store that there. And the reason that you might be thinking, why is that good? Is because now I've got sort of a little bit more, I can start doing this sort of thing here. Now I'm still relatively restricted in that I can only turn these 2 faces. And I can say I don't really want to do that. I'm trying to separate these pieces as best I can. And that's getting separated. But clearly there's still pieces that need to be brought out. So where are they? Well, there's a couple of pieces here. I can happily exchange them for something else and get these ones into the mix. But also these green pieces, and I need to be able to bring them out. And so what I might do there is just temporarily turn this face, bring them up and out like that. Now that's put a couple in there, so I'm not super happy with that. Let's put those ones in there instead. They're sort of trapped in there now because they've been scrambled, and now I can continue. Of course, I don't want to do that because it brings that one into play. And just going until I'm satisfied that I have a decent-ish scramble. I can absolutely flip edges and twist corners here. For example, if I wanted to flip these 2, even with this setup, I can happily do that, no problem. So that's not a bad idea, just to get a few edges flipped, and maybe I'll do those 2. It's going to unflip that yellow blue, but you see what I'm saying there. Okay, how are we looking at the scramble? Everything's looking relatively good, so it's probably now time to move some pieces out, move some of these pairs and other things, which is not always as easy as it sounds. But not too far away from the point where I'm going, good, that's done, it's ready to start solving. That's looking reasonable. Of course, I can't budge that, that's just stuck there. The only thing I can do with the clocks is to spin them around, but if I can, I might as well. So I would say that's pretty close to a decent enough scramble. I wouldn't mind separating that piece from there. And to do that, I kind of need to get them out of the way. I can bring that back. Okay. Let's probably put something else next to where it belongs, but that's okay. There we go. All right, so moving on to the solve. What do we want to do? Because this is a very restricting part, I want to start there and I want to think, what else is sitting there? I've got this green-red piece, and straight away I can look at it and go, that has the potential to become a bit of a fuse block there. So I might think about, could I make that happen? Could I somehow turn that into a fuse block? That's my yellow upper face, so that's the one that I want to move. Now what I've found is that in order to place these 2, it's so much simpler and easier if I get the remaining pairs and clocks into these positions. So for now, I'm going to move that clock to there, and I want to fill these positions with the other two pairs. So one of the pairs is here, one is here. Let's firstly see if we can put this one in. Does that turn? No, because that's the slice, obviously. So I've got to go this way. I don't want to fill that position. Okay, that one's in there. Now let's get this one out and see if this one will go into this position here. That is what I want. Perfect. So I've got sort of this big line here. You could almost look at it as a bit of a big block sitting here. What that now enables me to do is to turn this and be able to place these pieces. Now that green-white has just landed there. I don't like the fact that it just did that so easily. So normally you would be sitting in this position. Now that's where the green-red clock belongs. But in order to place the green-white edge, I'm going to have it here. And just want to cycle that home however it happens. So in this case, I can just do that. That's now sitting there. Now I need to place the green, white, red. So I'll locate that. And I'm just, because I don't want the red on top initially, because I'm going to show you what happens if it's not. Now, what we would do is bring that piece around to the top, directly above it. And I'm just going to do 3 down, down, up, ups. The thing is, the color on the top will go to the bottom. So because that's red, I need the red of the red, white, green to be there. So it's not at the moment, which means what I can do is something like just turn that off and push that out the way initially, because I want to do something like that without dislodging this piece. And now I've got the red on top. So when I put this back and bring the piece there, I can now happily go down, down, up, up 3 times. And not only is it placed, but it is oriented. And that's pretty important for that little piece because it's now done. It's trapped, it's done, it's not going to come out. Now at this point, I kind of want to extend it to a big block. And I've got a number of options or possibilities for doing that. For example, I could bring this block in here and that would be a big block. The reason I definitely don't want to do that is because it will take out some of the yellow face. I want that to be my last face. I've also got an option over here. So I could place these pieces. The reason I'm not going to is that's fine, but the piece that belongs here is this blue, white, orange piece. And if you think about how it's oriented now, you can see it's actually going to have to flip. It's like that edge is flipped. And so it's going to be over here, which means it's going to behave like a big block plus another little bit sticking out. Very annoying. No point doing that. That sort of leaves me with the option over here of placing this green, orange, white pair into there to make it happen. So that is what I'm going to try and do. And I should be able to just do that. That's normally pretty straightforward. You can see I've now got a big block structure sitting there. Now, the reason I'm happy with that is because what have I used? Apart from the slice, I've used 1, 2, 3. The slice makes 4. There's only these 2 pieces left to deal with in terms of the non-normal piece. And I can see here that first thing, as I said, this is flipped. I need to have the pieces in this position so that I can go and move this around. Now I want to put it in its correct position so you can see what happens. And that's going to be something like this. Whoop, no, it's not because it's flipped. So just ignore everything I'm saying. For now, I just want to unflip it. And I'm going to do that. How am I going to do that? Something like that. Okay. Now, if I put that in at the moment, you can see the colors certainly look different. If I place it so that it's correctly placed in its correct position, you can see the big problem that it does is it means now I've got really no access from any face to the yellow face. That's a big problem. And so because of that, what I need to do is turn it as it was so that these two are together, because that now means I can put them there. And it's very simple to get this back into its correct position. Now, to demonstrate how we're going to do the edges, what I want to do initially is just solve the edges into their correct positions, so that it looks like they're going to be. So for example, if I have that there, I'm going to say that's blue-orange. This is yellow-green. Let's turn the yellow-green there. The yellow-red is over here. It needs to flip. So I'll just do that and then solve it. Okay, so those two are in. That leaves me a yellow-blue and a blue-orange, which need to swap. So that's a standard turn the upper face one turn and resolve. And that'll give me a 3 cycle now, which I can go ahead and finish. Now, you look at the edges and go, cool, the edges are done. But here's the problem. If I go and put this back so that it is correctly oriented like that, hang on, the edges are out here. These two are good, but we've got a cycle. So that tells me I actually want to place the blue-orange where the yellow-blue is. So the blue-orange has got to go to the yellow-blue. In other words, in order to have it correctly come back at the end, I must cycle these now like that. Now, the edges are now correct. And just to demonstrate that, if I was to replace this piece, you'll see that all of the edges are now correct and that piece is where we want it. So that's what I'm talking about there. Let's just undo that. Now, the next stage is that I want to, I'm going to say solve the corners, but really what I'm doing is making edge bars. And if you ponder what I've been doing when I've been moving this piece in and out here, essentially what I'm going to end up with is this line is going to be fine. I'm going to have a completed bar here, a completed bar here, and a completed bar here, which I'm then just going to cycle home at the end. So the question is, how do I get the correct pieces to make these triplets of pieces? That's what I'm interested in. Now, let's think about this one here. That happens to be a blue, white, red. So the blue, white, red piece has got to go here. What about the piece that's below here? That is going to be, it's quite confusing because you will initially think, oh, that's going to be yellow, green, orange. But it's actually not, because when I cycle these home, this triplet is going over here. So if I follow this piece, that goes into the yellow, green, red position. And that tells me that because my setup is like that, I just want to get that yellow, green, red piece placed there first. Now I can do that very simply by turning that face first to put the yellow, red, green above it, and then 3 down, down, up, ups. So that has put the yellow, green, red down at the bottom there, which is where I wanted it. Now, if I turn that back to that position, you can see that is in position, but it's still confusing as to where we want it to be. Because remember, this is eventually going to go over to here. So at the moment, in terms of doing our cycles, we've got to have it sorted like that. So this is out the way. These things are back over here. But in terms of looking at what's got to go where, it's a little bit different. So what I would potentially do at a time like this is get everything back into its correct position initially so that I can see, well, what exactly does have to go where. And to put it back in its correct position, remember the red and the orange pieces, they kind of always stayed there. So it was these other ones that were out. So if I go and solve this, remember at the moment, and put this one, whoops, let's go, got another turn to do there. Other way, put this where it should be. Now we can kind of take stock a little bit better as to what exactly is going on. And we can see, yep, the edges were where they should be. That white, blue, red is okay. And the yellow, green, red, notice that over there, that's the one that we just placed down in that corner. So we can see now that what we've got to cycle is actually these three pieces here. So the yellow, orange, blue has to go to the yellow, red, blue. That's what we want to remember. And in case we get confused about the third piece, we're also going to remember this piece is done. So yellow, orange, blue to yellow, red, blue. I'll set it back in that configuration. Remember, that piece is done, and it's yellow, orange, blue to yellow, red, blue, which means that is the third piece. And that's confusing because it looks like it's done. But you'll notice that actually I've got to have a yellow, blue piece here. That's what's going on. So the piece movement now is going to be the yellow, orange, blue to the yellow, red, blue to this one. So what I'm going to do here is a corner piece series, and it doesn't matter which direction. I can do an upper turn like that, or I could do an up anti-clockwise like that, because this is not going to get in the way when I do that. So I've just got to go and have a think about the three pieces. That was the piece movement. So if I do a U-turn, that's the piece movement there, and that just tells me I want a normal corner piece series turning the upper face clockwise first. So I'm going to carry that out. Okay, that's done. I think I had a setup there, and I can sort of tell that by the yellow, orange, and yellow, red also being out. So the pieces now should be in the correct positions. Now, probably no need to put it back because we can sort of see, okay, over here, that's the yellow, blue, and it has a yellow, blue corner and a yellow, blue corner. Remember, this piece belongs with this. So when we turn that down, there's the yellow, green, and I have a yellow, green corner and a yellow, green corner. Beauty. Okay, so from now, we want to twist these corners before we go and solve the whole thing. Now, in order to twist corners, what I need is to have two of them over here. Ideally, an anti-clockwise one at the front and a clockwise one that needs to twist clockwise at the back. So at the moment, I can see I've actually got quite a few. I've got, in fact, all but one, the one we put in right at the beginning, need to twist. So this is the configuration I want it to be in, not like this, but with them stored out the way there. So let's have a look what's here. This yellow, red, blue needs to go clockwise. This yellow, orange, green, what does that one need to go? If I kind of put it over to there, I can see, that needs to go clockwise as well. So there's a couple of clockwise ones there. What about this one? The white, blue, red, that needs to go anti-clockwise. Okay, so I've got these two, which will work really nicely. If I just spin this around 2 turns before I begin, we should get these two done. Now, what I'm going to do, it's not possible to do the normal sort of thing that I would do here, which is an up, up, down, down twice, and then turn a third face. I just don't have that capability, so I need to carry out a Sune, followed by a left-hand Sune. And I'm sure you're thinking, but wait a minute, we're going to involve this thing. We are, but thankfully it goes this way. And when I come to do this next turn, I'm actually doing a U2, so it kind of skips the bit where it might block stuff. So that has now been done. You can see those corners have been twisted. If I undo those, firstly, you'll see that just seems to beautifully go in there, as does that one. Okay, that's good. So those two have been done. I've got 3 remaining, and because there's 3 remaining, they're all going to be needing to be twisted in the same direction. So let's just identify, it doesn't really matter what I do here. I might as well just do these two because they're in position. One of them will get twisted properly. There we go, that was it. And that leaves me with the yellow, blue, red, and the yellow, green, red. This one very clearly has to go anti-clockwise, this one clockwise. Now, I would like to get them in the correct position. So I've got a couple of options here. One is I can do that and then that. That's a simple setup. I'm just going to have to carry out the routine twice. So I'm just going to see, is there a way that I can get this one to the back there? And I reckon there is. What I can do is do a setup to there, and when I do my right turn to put this one up to the top face, so I'm just going to think right up to right prime. Now I have them where I want them. So it's just a matter of whether the setups are easy enough to do. In this case, I think it is, and I can carry out the twist. All done. Now I did right up to right prime, so let's undo that. Okay, that's all done. Things are looking pretty good here. I must have had another twist on the top that I didn't bother remembering. You can see, yeah, probably didn't need to. And now all the corners are twisted. They are all placed where they should be. The final thing here is to finish it off. Now, before we do that, we've got to cycle these completed triplets. But you sort of see, well, hang on a minute. Have I got to swap? No, I just have to get these edges into their correct locations first. Now I've got this triplet going to here, this triplet going to here, this one going back there. So it's a really simple 3 cycle to finish it off. And finally, we have this Detour cube solved. So as I said at the start, not what you'd call a super crazy difficult, but it absolutely does have some stuff that makes you think. And I didn't see a better way to do this just with these two sort of getting in each other's way than placing one there and just freeing up some faces there. Really nice puzzle. I like it a lot. Now this is the puzzle for the next video. This one is called the C block. As you can see, it makes a C shape. And so it's, I guess, one of the more straightforward ones in terms of it's a pretty simple idea. It's got a big clock running along the back up to back down center there. It's got a clock running from up to up back, and it's got a clock running from down to down back as well. That's all that is on there. And as I say, it's the first time in this series that I've had a puzzle with a big slice. Obviously it takes up quite a bit of real estate, so you're not going to really have a puzzle that has a big slice and a big clock and a big block and everything else. It'll just be almost unmovable. But this is the one that we'll look at next time.